Welcome, students. I'm here enjoying my coffee. That's a picture of me with my huge 13-inch bluefish in Cape Cod. I'm very proud of it. But yeah, we're starting Imperialism, and if you didn't already set up your page, set up 2 pages, divide them in half, and put the headings. So hit pause right now and do that. For this presentation, you can listen to the show, and at the end of each section I have some bulleted notes, or you can take notes for yourself. What is imperialism? Well, remember the last unit, westward expansion, manifest destiny? It is our duty to spread the Christian code, the white man's way. Well, again, the United States will use this as justification to expand its borders into the Pacific and Latin America. If you notice, the United States at the turn of the century, that's 1900, is an isolated nation with 2 huge oceans. In order to have more influence in the world in terms of markets or expanding businesses or our military might, we're going to need to expand. The places that our country will expand are into Latin and South America, into Asia, and of course in the Pacific Ocean, places like Hawaii, Guam, Samoa, and the Philippines. You might want to look at your maps right now to get your bearings. Some historians would claim that the United States, in essence, took some of these lands. Look at some of the lands that we acquired or got influence in. Cuba, Puerto Rico, Philippines, and of course, Hawaii. Again, all this is happening at the end of westward expansion into the next century. William McKinley is president during the early stages of imperialism. So one way to justify waging wars or putting our military might into other countries or demanding that other countries trade with us is this concept called social Darwinism, or we have to spread the message or civilization to the other races around the world. Sometimes that's called the white man's burden. Did we do this to spread Christianity? Did we do this to spread democracy? Some might say that that is our ideological motivation. What do you think? The United States got in on the imperialism game quite late. Many European countries, France, Great Britain, you can see the map, were already carving out sections of the world in Africa and Asia so that they can gain markets and raw materials and a military stronghold. We missed out on that, so our influence is going to be in Latin America and in the Pacific. This is what an imperialist nation does. It expands its borders. Whenever you see me, if you want, that's when you can stop and write. If you didn't already do so, you can go back, view the slides, or you can just write these bulleted items for the notes on imperialism. The next section of your notes is titled Splendid Little War. This refers to the Spanish-American War in 1898. Just to get you up to speed, the last colonial power in our hemisphere is Spain. Many of the countries in South America at this time are gaining independence or are unstable. But right in our backyard in Cuba, there is Spanish influence. At this point, the United States does not want this. Again, we're trying to expand our borders, gain military bases, make sure our business interests, sugarcane, anything you could think of, building railroads, is secure. This might be one of the reasons that we declared war on Spain. The controversial explosion of a U.S. naval vessel was blown up in Havana Harbor. To this day, no one knows what the cause is. Whatever the reason for the explosion of the Maine, some newspapers took advantage of this outcry and wrote non-accurate, sensational articles. This is called yellow journalism to sell newspapers. One of the quotes of the day from the famous newspaper owner Hearst was, "You provide the photo, I'll provide the war." Some people feel that yellow journalism caused public opinion in America to support this foreign policy of waging war on Spain. Well, we didn't do so bad in that war. We won it pretty quickly. After the war, the United States does gain access to Cuba to build military bases, does gain access to Puerto Rico, again, another country in the Atlantic Ocean. We also gain access to the Philippines in the Pacific, which is right next to China and right next to Japan. Wouldn't that be a great launching off point for our naval vessels and also to secure trade routes? And while we're there, why don't we gain other islands like Samoa and Guam? These are all United States territories or protectorates. Here are the bulleted notes if you would like to write those now. The third of 4 sections of notes is securing Pacific trade interests. This is another popular cartoon of the time. Notice a fat Uncle Sam taking in on the spoils of expansion policy. We are going to expand our borders greatly into the Pacific Ocean. At the time of this era, China is a loosely organized country, not even a country, just territories, city-states, but there are plenty of riches in China, and the other European powers want influence. Great Britain, France, Russia, Germany. The United States decides that we're going to go over there and demand that they open their doors, and we also get a piece of the pie called a sphere of influence, so we can trade with certain sections of China. The cartoon illustrates that European powers, you better let the United States in on this piece of the pie. Another piece of the pie, if you look at your map, is the Philippines. We do acquire or gain access to the Philippines after the Spanish-American War. If you notice, the Philippines is a launching off point for trade vessels and military vessels for the mainland of China, Japan, Russia, and India. Again, Pacific territories in the era of imperialism. How did we gain Hawaii? Some people would say out of humanitarian reasons. Some people would say to protect our business interests. Some would say to spread Christianity or the white culture. And some would say to gain that huge advantage of a stopping off point for military vessels and controlling the Pacific Ocean. To this day, we have Pearl Harbor and other military bases in Hawaii. I like this picture. This picture shows Philippine natives who, for a good portion of the 1800s, land was occupied by militaries of many different countries. Some were hoping that the United States was going to assist them in elections and forming new governments, but when we acquired the Philippines, that was not the case. That's Teddy Roosevelt, our famous president, who becomes president, believe it or not, after an assassination of William McKinley, and he is sworn into office in New York State. Legend would have it that he was hiking or hunting in the Mount Marcy area when he heard the news. Teddy Roosevelt wants to expand the borders, and he also wants to be the police officer in South America and Latin America. I wonder what we're going to acquire through his policies. You remember that concept called the Monroe Doctrine? No more colonizing in Latin or South America. You're going to get a fight with the United States. This was in the 1820s. Well, Roosevelt piggybacks on that concept and says, not only that, South American countries, if you're unstable, it's our duty to maintain order. That's some fancy word called the Roosevelt Corollary, but it justifies military presence in all of South and Latin America. Teddy Roosevelt again, wielding his big stick influence in the Caribbean or Atlantic Ocean. Really look at this map and notice all of the influence and the years the United States has in Central and South America. Notice where Colombia is. Do you see that little piece of land called an isthmus or Panama? Wouldn't it be great if we can save tens of thousands of miles of travel time and build a canal and then guard it with our military ships? What an influence. Well, that's exactly what happens. The story of the Panama Canal is really worth going on YouTube to pursue. But Teddy Roosevelt takes on this construction project, and it's built, and the United States acquires that area or the canal zone and maintains it all the way up until the 1970s when it was released back to Panama under President Jimmy Carter.